Token-based authentication is the process to identify whether the particular user is allowed to access my APIs or not, but that is not enough in a real enterprise level application. In a real application, we need something else as well, and that is called as a role-based authorization. In this video, I'm going to explain you the concept of a role-based authorization plus its implementation using a .NET Core API project. Hey everyone, my name is Rahul and welcome back to my channel. If you're not aware about the concept of JSON Web Token and its implementation in a .NET Core ecosystem, then I have recorded an entire video on my channel explaining the same concept. The link will be added in the description. Please watch that video as well. Now let's come back to our topic. What exactly is a role-based authorization? In order to understand the concept of a role-based authorization, we need to understand two important terms, and that is authentication versus authorization. What exactly is authentication and what exactly is authorization? Let's try to understand this in a very layman language. So, authentication is a process to identify who you are, whereas authorization is a process to identify what you can do. Now, this sounds a little bit confusing to you, so let me explain this in a very layman example. Let's say your friend invited you to his house on a weekend and you went to his house. Your friend opens the door and he asks you to sit in the living room. That process is called as authentication, where your friend knows who you are and he is allowing you to come to his house. In your friend's house, there might be a certain location which you are not supposed to go. Maybe the place where his family member has kept their valuable items, maybe some cash, maybe some kind of ornaments. Maybe you are also not allowed to use your friend's bike without his consent. That process is called as authorization. With the concept of an authentication, you are already inside that house, but still you need certain permission, certain access to use other parts or to use other things inside that house. That process is called as authorization. Okay. I hope this example is clear to you, the difference between authentication and authorization. Let's see how we can implement this in a .NET Core ecosystem. So I'll open up a Visual Studio and I'll be still following the same code, the one that I had created to explain the concept of a JSON Web Token. To start with, this is a .NET Core API project which uses an entity framework code first approach. There are a couple of tables inside this application, but the main part that you should be remembering is this data. For this demo purpose, I have inserted some dummy data inside my tables, and the table structure is as follow, which consists of username, password, first name, last name, gender, and role. You can see that all of these user which I have added, only one of them is having an admin role, whereas all the other users are belong to a user role itself. One of the important aspect of using a role-based authorization is we need to define a specific role to a specific user, and that's what we are doing with this line of API project. Also consists of a token controller, which is responsible for generating a access token and refresh token. If I navigate back to my Postman, where my app is running, and if I navigate back to my Postman, and if I pass something in my username and password, you will see that this particular username and this particular password are valid one in my database. And if I pass a username and password, I'll get a access token and refresh token. And based on this access token and refresh token, I am able to consume the other API. The other controller that exists in my project is an admin controller and a user controller. This user controller is responsible for fetching the list of user, and you can see both the controller, whether it's an admin or it's a user, they both are protected with an authorized attribute. It means that from a postman, if you are not passing a bearer token, then you won't be able to access these endpoints. Let me just walk you through with this demo. So if I navigate back to my postman and if I navigate to any of the endpoint, you can see in my header, I am passing an authorization token. When I pass this, I am able to get the value. But the moment I remove this authorization token, I should get a 401, which is there. That simply means that the access control is working fine in my application. Now let's discuss what exactly the concept is of role-based authorization. So while generating this token, if I navigate back to a specific location, you will see that I am adding a claims inside my token, and that claim is my user role. Each and every user is assigned to a specific role in this demo application, and that role is a part of a token itself. If you grab the token, the one that is generated, and if you navigate to a website called as jot.io, and if I paste this token over here, you will notice that this website or this token consists of a specific claim, and that claim is called as a role. This role is responsible for implementing a role-based authorization. So each and every token which I'm generating from my application consists of a specific role. If I just want to show another role to you, if I navigate back to my Postman and if I pass some different user, let's say charlie@gmail.com, you will notice a new token got generated. And if I copy this token and navigate back to my browser again, this time you will notice that this user is having a different role and it is having a user role, right? So it's there that each and every user belongs to a separate role, and we have to use this information to protect my resources, protect my endpoint using a role-based authorization. Now, as you can notice that in my application, there are two controllers. One is admin controller and second is user. The user controller should be accessible to those folks who are having a user role, and the admin controller should be accessible to those folks having admin role only. We can implement this with a small line of change in the current code. All I have to do is I have to pass another role in the bracket, another attribute, and give the value as user. Please make sure that whatever role you are creating in your database, whatever the roles that user belongs to, this should be exactly same. So here we are saying that a person who is having a user role should be able to access a user controller. And similarly, a person who is having an admin role should be able to access an admin controller. So once I navigate to my Postman, you will notice that all my APIs are still working fine. If I click on this send request, I'll still get a token. And this time, this Charlie belongs to a user role. So based on this token, if I navigate to my fetch user screen, so once I pass this token, you will notice that I am getting the data from my database because this user endpoint is accepting a user with a user role only. Whereas to access this admin endpoint, I should be having an admin role. And if I pass the same token over here, I'll get a different error message, and that is 403, not 401. There's a difference between 403 and 401. 401 simply says that you are an unauthenticated person, whereas 403 says that server knows who you are, but you are not allowed to access this resource. Okay. Similarly, if I again go to my token part, and this time, if I generate a token for an admin user in my application, John is an admin user. If I generate a new token for him, that is this one. And now with this admin token, if I want to access my admin API, I would be able to get this data. But similar time, I won't be able to get a data from a user endpoint because now my user will start throwing a forbidden error. You can notice that I can implement a role-based authorization with minor changes in my source code. All I have to do is just to navigate to my controllers and provided this role over here. You can actually club multiple roles as well. Like right now, we are only providing a single role, but if you want that this user controller should be accessible to a normal user as well as admin, we need to pass the admin role also as a comma separated value. So I can pass that this particular endpoint should be accessible to someone having a user role as well as admin role. And if I make these changes and if I run my application again, you will notice that now my user controller will be accessible to those folks who are having an admin role as well as a user role. If I navigate back to my Postman and generate a new token for my admin user, this time you will notice that this admin user is still able to access the admin endpoint. And along with this, he is also able to access a user endpoint as well, because now we have allowed that admin role should be able to access both admin and user controller. Similarly, if I again generate a user endpoint like charlie@gmail.com, and this token consists of a user endpoint, if I again grab this token and navigate back to my fetch user, I would be able to access the user endpoint, but I won't be able to access the admin endpoint, obviously, because this endpoint is protected one, and a person not having an admin role is not allowed to access this end, right? So in this way, we can say that we can implement a role-based authorization in a .NET Core API project. All you have to do is, while generating a token, you should be passing a specific role to your claims part, and based on that role, you would be able to achieve this implement. I hope this demo was straightforward to you and you would be able to understand the difference between that concept of token-based authentication versus a role-based authorization. If something is not clear or still you have some doubts, then please do mention the same in the comment section. I'll try to create a separate video for that as well. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. This will really keep me motivated to generate a new content for you. Thank you.